shift in U.S. industry and history. Should the government bail out the big three? Joining us now by telephone is the Vice President of Business Development for Tesla Motors, Mr. Diarmuid O'Connell. Thank you for being on tonight, Mr. O'Connell, and congratulations to you and the Tesla staff.
Well, thank you very much. It's good to be with you.
This is great. You know, we're seeing more and more money being pumped into American automakers, but General Motors and Chrysler, they're sinking. Should companies like yours receive these funds instead of the big three, Mr. O'Connell?
Well, you know, we prefer not to think of it as an either-or proposition. The domestic automakers have some significant challenges, and I think that there are strong arguments to be made for preserving aspects of their business. There's infrastructure involved. There's a very personal aspect associated with the jobs and job preservation, and those things have to be weighed to account.
Yeah.
But I would say that it's equally important as the government considers helping these companies out, that it invests in the future of American automotive manufacturing, companies such as Tesla Motors and some of our other new competitors.
And speaking of Tesla, Mr. O'Connell, please explain Tesla Motors to our viewers that may not be familiar.
Well, the idea of Tesla Motors originally was that there ought to be a way that an American manufacturer could develop a pure electric pure electric car using innovations in existing technologies and developing new technologies. That car could set new marks for efficiency, for performance, and do it in a fashion that previous alternative vehicles have not, which is to say, make it a beautiful car, make it a desirable car, one that people would want on its merits and would be competitive with existing technology.
You know, how can Tesla get a fully electric car out and the Chevrolet Volt isn't scheduled to be out until 2010?
Well, you know, part of it is necessity being the mother of invention. I mean, we are a resource, you know, when we started this, we were a resource-starved organization that was living by our wits, and every day we had to sink or swim based on our efforts, and that breeds a certain amount of innovation, and I think that takes you to a place that you don't find in organizations which are larger and where job security and such is more protected.
You know, that's a good point. You mentioned the term larger. You know, you're the Vice President of Business Development. How do you market these vehicles in a landscape dominated by large automakers, though?
Well, really, the beauty of Tesla Motors is that we emerged into the marketplace in 2006, 2007, just at a time when the consciousness of global warming, as well as the reality of high gas prices, were stimulating people to think differently about what kind of cars they want to buy and what sort of factors they should bring to bear when they go to purchase a vehicle, and assigning greater value to things like impact on the environment and the cost of putting gas in those vehicles. So I don't want to say that they sell themselves, but to a degree they have to this point, and we're going to leverage that going forward by investing in new and exciting products to sort of maintain that cycle.
Now, Mr. O'Connell, I'm looking at the specifications on this car. It's a fully electric automobile, two-seat sports car, single-speed fixed gear. I'm looking at 248 peak horsepower, 125 miles per hour is the top speed. Of course, it says here that that's electronically governed, but it looks like you've got a range of 220 miles. I think that's phenomenal. What about recharging the battery, sir?
Well, first of all, the 220 number is actually a little bit low. The EPA validated range is 244 miles. Fact is that you can charge these cars simply by plugging them into the wall. When we started this company, no one else was working on electric vehicles, and we couldn't presume that people would put charging stations in public places, and so we had to make this vehicle capable of plugging into existing infrastructure. So you can plug it directly into your household circuit, which is a 110. You can go into a 220, which is faster. And we also sell a high-power connector that would allow you to charge the car from dead to full in 3.5 to 4 hours.
Now, Mr. O'Connell, I've been pretty much convinced to buy the car. It's very expensive. However, you just released a sedan. The Roadster, of course, is out, but you've got a sedan. Tell us a little bit about that automobile.
Well, this is probably the most exciting thing about the business as a whole. I mean, we are a Silicon Valley company. Most of us have been in the technology business for a long time. We have a lot of experience with something called versioning. Versioning is the way that the $2,000 cell phone of 1985 became the virtually free cell phone of today.
Yeah.
So too with computers, even with things like air travel. So the Model S, which we introduced last week in LA, is a five-door, 7-passenger vehicle with similar performance attributes to the Roadster in terms of range, in terms of performance, and certainly in terms of looks, at less than half the cost.
Wow. You know, you're building a store in Chicago. We congratulate Tesla for that. And you know what? It looks like it might be a company like yours that's going to save the auto industry.
We certainly hope so.
Mr. Diarmuid O'Connell from Tesla, thanks for being on Garrard McClendon Live.
My pleasure.
All right. And still to come on tonight's show, your phone calls on whether we should fire the CEOs and bail out the auto industry. Does Toyota or Honda need a bailout?
What I'm talking about is using our existing legal structure as a tool that, with the backing of the U.S. government, can make it easier for General Motors and Chrysler to quickly clear away old debts that are weighing them down so that they can get back on their feet and onto a path to success.
Mr. Obama has spoken. The auto industry is in deep trouble. General Motors and Chrysler are on the ropes. Where's Lee Iacocca when you need him? Welcome back to Garrard McClendon Live. Should we mortgage our future on the backs of the automakers? Dr. Patrick Murphy from DePaul University joins me from Tribune Tower for a discussion on America's great obsession. Thanks for being on GML.
It's my pleasure.
You know, Doctor, it looks like the buck stops with President Obama. Should the government continue to give money to automakers?
I think that they should, but they should do it in a particularly intelligent way. I don't think letting them sink is the best option. However, I don't think a full-on bailout is the best option either. I think something more along the lines of teaching them how to swim with a little bit at a time might be the best way to go. Obviously, we've tried that for a while. It is time for bold action. We heard a little bit of that this morning. A lot of people have lost their jobs over the last, well, 1 year in these big companies. Why not take some jobs from the top? That looks like what might be happening today, and I'm prepared to argue for going a little bit deeper.
Yeah, you know, the years of the 50s, 60s, and 70s are catching up with us in the form of new automakers. Do you think the American auto industry is in the past tense now? I mean, the foreign car makers are destroying us.
Well, I'll tell you, the thing about large organizations is that they change very slowly. One thinks of the metaphor of rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. When you try to steer something that big away from something that's a problem, that's approaching it quickly, like a new technology like the Tesla Motor Company or some sort of financial crisis on Wall Street, these things don't turn on a dime. And it's easy to trim away things at the bottom, employees, resources, departments, but the decisions that put a company into these situations come from the top, and we can make cuts at the top just as well.
So firing or asking CEOs to resign, that's like the tip of the iceberg. Do you think we have to go a few layers below that?
It's possible. I mean, if not letting people go at the top, just as they are let go at the bottom, at least an incentive structure in place that encourages these individuals to make decisions that are truly good for the company. A stronger incentive system might be in order.
Yeah. You know, Doctor, if automakers die, what about all of the raw material makers? I mean, plastics, leather, textile, metal, and steel companies that depend on the behemoth to take care of all of them. What happens to them?
Well, I think that's the perfect argument for not letting them die. Obviously, the shock waves would reverberate through the entire economy. That is why we need to keep the auto industry, but these kind of bold moves are going to become more and more needed. What you heard President Obama say this morning. It's time to act, and I'm glad that he has.
Yeah. Dr. Murphy, free market, you got to explain this to my viewers. You know, should we let them sink or swim? You know, we just got off the phone with Diarmuid O'Connell from Tesla. I mean, why not give that company, I mean, Elon Musk, the CEO, he had the guts to start an electric car company in California. Why not give them some money?
Well, they have the advantage of operating based on a new technology that has emerged. And as you mentioned earlier, these large companies such as GM and Ford have been around since the 70s, when the technologies are the very, that are the very center of Tesla weren't around yet. And so when those technologies emerge, they become part of the broader environment. And when GM needs to respond to that environment, as big as they are, they can't grab them and harness them and build cars based on them as quickly as a company like Tesla.
Yeah. Dr. Patrick Murphy from DePaul. Hold tight. We're going to discuss a little bit more in the next half of the show. Do you own a foreign car? Uh-oh, you may be part of the problem. If car makers go under, are we all affected? DePaul Management Professor Dr. Patrick Murphy up next to discuss the challenges of large automakers.
Automakers should have figured out a long time ago to make cars that are more energy efficient, and if they did, they'd have a much better business.
I haven't been able to afford to repair an American-made car since 1990s.
I don't think the American public really understands the ripple effect that does have. Everybody talks about, maybe it's good for GM to go bankrupt or Chrysler to go bankrupt and things of that nature. But the effect that it's going to have on the consumer, not only in a car buying purchase, but in jobs. We need to get people back in cars, American cars especially.
The people have spoken. We need to get Americans back in American cars. Email me at cltvtalk@tribune.com or post your blogs at cltv.com/GML. Are foreign cars taking over? President Obama wants us to regroup, retool, and innovate. Should GM and Chrysler be bailed out? Why? 630-575-TALK. Dr. Patrick Murphy joins us. Before I go to phones, Dr. Murphy, GM, $800 million in ads. They're going to drop. They're going to stop advertising. Not stop advertising, but they're going to cut $800 million out of the ad budget. And they're agreeing to drop the sponsors for the Emmys and the Academy Awards. Smart move to drop to curtail some advertising?
Well, I think they need to cut expenses as much as they possibly can. I mean, everybody knows they're there. We hear about them every day. I think we know where to go if we want to buy a GM car. I think that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, let me go to phones. I'm going to go to Steve first. Steve, thanks for calling Garrard McClendon Live. What's your opinion?
How you doing, Gerard? Big fan, bro.
All right.
Hey, let me just say, I work for a prominent Chrysler dealer, and I got to agree to disagree with you on this matter. The government, I don't want to be out of job. I'm hurting right now. Let me tell you. I need to sell you a car. You looking for an Infiniti G35?
Wow.
Seriously, bro, can you help me out, man? I'm a big fan.
You know what? Hey, thanks for the call, Steve. I appreciate it. Dr. Murphy, he's got a good point. Whether you sell American cars or foreign cars, people need jobs. So is this clearly an American issue? I mean, what situation am I in if I help to manufacture Hondas or Nissans? I mean, should I be pro manufacturing foreign cars because I work for a foreign car maker? Or what do you think about this?
Well, I think there's room for everybody to come to the table. I think GM just needs to retool and restructure. Ford and Chrysler can do the same thing. Yeah. The foreign cars have entered a market and they have certain advantages over us in terms of production capabilities and the way that the tax structures and imports work. GM has been here for a long time. It is part of the fabric of our nation, and all the inefficiencies and social trends and customers and consumers and competitors, everything that happens affects them, and it's not just in the business community. So they face a little bit more of a complex situation than Toyota does, for example, when they come into our country.
Yes, sir. Let me go to Lynn next. Lynn, thanks for calling Garrard McClendon Live. What's your opinion?
Hey, Gerard, I got 2 points to make. First of all, I love your show.
Thank you.
We let the CEO go of General Motors, but what about the Wall Street people? We let them stay in place.
Wow. Thanks. Okay. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it. She's got a good point there, Dr. Murphy. And one of my bloggers here said, why all the rules for the auto industry and no rules for financial institutions? So there's something wrong here. This is Johnny speaking. He says it's chump change compared to what they gave AIG and the banks. So are we seeing preferential treatment when it comes to the automakers?
I don't think so. I think we've never been in this situation before. And, you know, President Obama has not been in office very long, and these things have hit like a freight train.
Yeah.
And there are decisions being made on the fly. There are decisions being made and then corrected. I think we have learned lessons ever since the bailout on Wall Street and the earlier bailout of the support to the automakers.
Yeah.
We're learning as we go, and coercing or compelling or whatever it was that occurred for top management to go is just another step in the direction of what we need to do.
Yeah.
I think it's a nice option. I want to see what happens. Don't worry about that CEO. I mean, quite frankly, he's going to be fine. We're thinking about the company here and what's going to change, because when a CEO makes decisions, it affects everyone beneath him all the way down throughout the structure.
That's
and so
true.
it's a new way to approach the problem.
That's true. Let me go to Renee next. Renee, thanks for calling GML. What's your comment?
Oh,
Hi. Go ahead, Renee.
You're welcome, and I love your show, too. I just want to, I really agree with Dr. Murphy on a lot of things, and that's my alma mater, DePaul, too. I want to throw that in there.
Hey.
But to me, this has been coming for a long time, so I don't understand why now everybody's like, oh, we have to save them. Sure, the trickle-down effect is going to be huge if they go under, but I think there should be some standards there. Why is it that Hyundai is the only one out there advertising how they'll help people who are unemployed, or if they lose their jobs, they'll still get them in a car?
Yes.
GM or none of them are doing that. I've had 2 Saturns. I've supported them, but if I go to my dealer now and say, oh, I'm unemployed now, but I really need a car, my car was totaled a couple months ago. Now, how do I work with that company? I don't. I'm thinking about going to Hyundai now.
Wow. Renee, thanks for the call. I appreciate that. You know, I talked about competitive edge earlier, Dr. Murphy. I mean, do the American automakers take us for granted?
Well, I think Renee makes a fantastic point. The human element and this expression of concern for the consumers and the citizens of our country is very important. But for GM to make a decision similar to Hyundai with regard to if you don't make the payments, they'll take it back and they'll take care of you, it has different ramifications. GM is operating in a slightly different context. And so it's not like one person can just make that decision and make that happen. There's an organization making a decision here, and there's a lot of inertia in a company like GM.
Yeah.
Even if they wanted to do something like that right now, I'm not sure they could. It might take a year just to work out all the details.
Wow. Dr. Murphy, hold tight. Welcome back to the show. We're talking with Dr. Patrick Murphy from DePaul University. Let me take some more phone calls here. I'm going to go to Tommy. Tommy, thanks for calling. What's your comment? Make it quick.
Yeah, my comment is the problem to solve this problem, we should put all 3 automotive companies together instead of having individual companies. We got great minds in the automotive industry. Working together instead of against each other, competing with each other is no good. Because what we're doing is we're giving Japan the winning edge to send their cars over here, Germany the winning edge to send their cars over here, when we could build a car that's comparable to whatever they make. There's no question about it. There is no question about it. And the problem we're having is the unions charging $80 an hour per man on that assembly line.
There we go.
That is extortion.
There we go.
That is absolutely raping the public.
Hey, Tommy, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. You know what? Let me sneak Bill in here quickly. Bill, make your comment quick. I'm about to end the show. What's your comment?
The main thing is we do not build cars as good as Japan. If we did, then Japan wouldn't even be over here selling cars. We need to build them good so they'll last long, and that's the problem.
Hey, Bill, thanks for the call. We appreciate you. Dr. Patrick Murphy, final statement. Can management, good management, get us out of this crisis?
Well, the job of top managers is to respond to the tough challenges that emerge in the environment. The people who have been leading these companies up until now, they are at least partially responsible for taking these companies into the state that we have them.
Yeah.
I think a turnover is important, and I think with a good turnover, bringing in people from the outside to address this complex, challenging situation, there's a good chance that we'll get things back on track.
Yes, sir. Dr. Patrick Murphy from DePaul University. We appreciate you for being on Gerard McClendon Live.
Thank you so much.
All right. Hey, as we tread water in this recession, let's look for more ways to innovate. That's Gerard McClendon Live for tonight. Stay positive, keep your head up, and always be encouraged.